I think it's definitely a major part of the strategy. We talk about something quite a bit in digital ag, and that's the idea of being a trusted advisor. And so, whether that's myself at Climate Field View or I'm building myself as the technical expert, I do that every day by showing up and having answers and working and problem solving and listening empathetically to the customer and their needs, reading between the lines. So, that's something that builds authority and trust with them.
All right. Well, thank you so much for tuning into the Wisenetix Podcast. My name is Daryl. I am your host today, and I probably was last week as well. With me today, I've got Megan McNamee. She's a Climate Enablement Manager over at Climate Field View. Megan, how are you doing today?
Hi, Daryl. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Hey, no, thank you so much for coming onto the show. Tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, thanks for asking. So like you said, Megan, right? I am what I consider myself to be an agriculturalist. And what that means to me is while I didn't grow up on a farm, I have heavily invested a lot of my time and learning and energy into agriculture. And I, as you mentioned, work for Climate Field View. I've been with the company for going on 5, 6 years now.
Wow.
And I kind of refer to myself as maybe like the digital janitor way back when I started on the support line. So if you were a farmer or somebody who had a question about Climate Field View, you were calling the 800 number. I was likely someone who helped you out on the lines. And when I started with Climate Field View, like I said, I'm not from a farm. I do have a degree from Illinois State University in agriculture, communication, and leadership. And I've also gone the route of making sure I dive fully into the industry by working on the farm while I was in college, as well as taking some internships in pork production, as well as horticulture. So I've done all sorts of stuff that led me to Climate Field View, and then through several roles in the company now to my Climate Enablement Manager role here in Minnesota, and I'm based out of Minneapolis.
That's awesome. What a wild journey that was.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I learned so much, but part of me really knew that if I was going to choose agriculture and not have that background, that I was going to have to put in the work so that people who in ag would take me seriously. And the foresight my 16-year-old self had was incredible because I was really right. And I'm so glad that I took those experiences on.
Yeah, pat 16-year-old you on the back. I think we talked before. I'm not from ag either. And so you're 100% right. You got to put in the work.
Yeah.
Props to 16-year-old you. So would you consider that one of your top three achievements, or do you have a separate top three that you'd share with us?
When I think about achievements, I think it's really easy to fall back on projects and things that we've done with work, maybe, different initiatives we've gotten across the line. But I have in my mind defining moments that have really led me to where I am today. The first one being when I was in high school and I joined an FFA meeting. That first day, I stepped into my advisor's room, not really knowing what to expect, and I never turned back. And at the time, I was a student athlete, right? I wasn't from ag. This kind of caught my friends and family out of the blue. And before I knew it, I was Madam Secretary. I was wearing a little ascot around the school, dressed in my FFA jacket. And people were a little confused, but I knew what I wanted. And I followed that. And I followed it all the way through college and into now. So that was definitely a defining moment for me. And I'm proud of myself for maybe going against the grain a little bit. And the second one actually is still an old memory, but a good one to me. The day that I drove out to the university farm and asked Bob, the farm manager, for a job. And as you can kind of see from my look now, I don't necessarily scream work on a farm, but he definitely gave me an eye up and down and said, there's dirt here, right? And like, you'll have to get dirty. And I said, Bob, I come from, I'm an athlete. I'm a tough worker. If you just give me a chance, I'll prove to you that I can do this. And he did. And, I had a great time and I learned a lot. And I guess my third defining moment, or maybe something that I'm really proud of in my career, and I hear people say commonly, and now that I've experienced it, I can totally agree, is being a people leader. I told you I started as a digital janitor, as I refer to myself. But I had a lot of people give me opportunities to prove myself and give me a chance. And my favorite thing to do is to open doors for other people. And I've done that in this role and will continue to do that. And it warms my heart to see people succeed, get hired into new roles, take on new projects. And if I can help them in any way reach those goals, then I'm fulfilled in that. And so I won't name the specific instances to keep people's, their own stuff to them. But yeah, that's being a people leader is really fulfilling.
That's awesome. I love a few things that you said there. I love that you phrased it as a defining moment because I think that's really what a lot of things are. Maybe we don't know them at the moment, but like I can certainly think back now and go, oh yeah, that because that happened right there, because my dad said that to me,
Mhm.
I went on down this path.
Yeah.
You were an athlete. What sports did you play?
I played softball.
Yeah.
I actually did play 2 years. I attended Kankakee Community College and got my generals and played for 2 years there. And then I did have the opportunity to walk on at Illinois State. And I remember, speaking of defining moments, I remember standing at the corner of the ag department, just having left the building and getting a voicemail from the coach saying, "Hey, we'd love you to come play with us. Like, come to practice, come to whatever, come do the steps to come to the team." And I knew in that moment in my gut that that was not the path that I wanted to go down. I wanted to really be with the department, be in clubs, spend my time out on the farm. And I have many coaches of softball that said, "Man, you could have kept going and been so good." But I don't think I'd be where I am today if I would have allowed my attention to still be split. So
Sure.
loved sports, still very competitive, but my cleats have been hung up for a while.
You're off the field, but the competition continues elsewhere.
Oh yeah.
So the people leader thing, I just have to say too, I love that as well. The same feelings you get from seeing other people walk through doors you help them open, I get the same thing.
Mhm.
And I love that feeling. That's probably like the best part of being a leader. Um, and I like that you call yourself a digital janitor to start because I call myself the fire marshal right now. So have a good time with that. But last question before we jump into a few marketing ones here.
Mhm.
How would your parents describe what you do right now?
This is such a funny question because I actually just got asked this by somebody this weekend, and I should have my elevator pitch better by now. When I talk to somebody in ag, it makes sense, but most of the people that I talk to outside of work have no clue. I mean, it's no secret that majority of consumers and just people are very separated from
Mhm.
what happens in agriculture. But the way I describe myself is I am, as a climate enablement manager, my responsibilities are a few fold. One, and first and foremost, I am someone who helps farmers with their technology. Specifically, Climate Field View is the app that I work with, but it's not just Climate Field View. It's everything from understanding how their tractor or combine is set up to record data, the monitors that are in there, the buttons they're pressing, helping them get their iPads set up, helping them get their data off of those things and in their hands in a way that they can actually use it and make decisions and analyze information. But I also have a responsibility to Bear Crop Science, as that is our parent company, and I help with a lot of business portions. So we have field sales reps on both the seed and the chemical and fertilizer side. So I help them and the dealers and distributors that sell the products to the farmer. So it is a fun ecosystem, and I am the tech person in the middle of all of it.
You're the person casting the wide net.
Yes, yes. And so that could look like going out to the farm to help a farmer. It could look like sitting in a meeting in front of, 50 of the area's largest top growers and explaining to them the future of digital technology and what's coming out. So it's really cool. You get to create your own path, and I really enjoy that.
Yeah, and I bet it makes every day a little different, right? It's not like the same thing.
Yeah, I always have the "You've Stumped Me" award that I say travels around. And when someone, because I've been doing this for a while now, so if somebody brings something new to me, they get the "You've Stumped Me" award until the next person can find something else for me to figure out with them.
That's awesome. Dude, you should get a little trophy for that and just be like, "Hey, here's a FedEx label. I need you to send it now over here."
I should.
So, kind of, it's interesting that you mentioned a few of those things where you're kind of straddling a few different worlds and everything that you handle. But do you think producing and sharing technical content is important for your brand's positioning?
Absolutely. When we think about technology adoption in general, right, there's certain curves we can group individuals into. We've got our early adopters, we've got the people who come a little bit after, and then we have people who maybe take things a little bit slower and aren't, as comfortable with technology, we'll say. And so, especially when you have a technology company working in agriculture, it's really imperative that you're able to help your customers understand, get set up on, really dive deep into your product and how it can benefit them,
Hmm.
and enable in order to do that, you have to provide the resources and the information and help them along. Otherwise, it's really overwhelming. Like there's so much going on a farm. If we can't provide the resources to help our customers actually adapt and use our technology, then we might as well not even have it. So that is something I personally, and I consider myself to be a teacher, but I personally stay very close to our teams that create that content, that market it, because they are maybe not on the farm, right? So they may be the experts in creating and bringing beautiful content to life, but if they don't have that connection, then it's not really going to speak to the customer in the way that it could. So that's a bridge that I really try to build every day if I can.
Sure. No, that makes perfect sense.
Mhm.
Especially since you're in both worlds, you almost have to be that bridge to make one side effective to the other.
I always tell anybody that I'm working with is I may not be able to resolve all your issues. We may not get all of our answers answered today. But let me be your advocate. What are you missing? What can our company put out for you that will make this easier? Is it quick YouTube videos? Is it pop-up notifications that guide you through the app? Is it bringing Climate Field View has a vast network of API partners that growers can use their data to connect to. So, how do we get that visibility? How do we get that information to our growers in a way that makes sense? And
Mhm.
we have tons of teams, right? That's their full time job, but they lean on us in the field to help them draw conclusions and make those connections.
And you said something there that I really like, where they're all like little feedback questions, right? I like to call that like micro feedback, and that's super important to me. And I know for a lot of companies it really is as well, because
Mhm.
we think we know how people are using our product, but I think a lot of times we could be wrong too.
Mhm.
Kind of building off a little bit of the technical content and producing that and sharing it. Do you use that also to kind of help build authority or thought leadership in the marketplace, or do you have other strategies for that?
I think it's definitely a major part of the strategy. We talk about something quite a bit in digital ag, and that's the idea of being a trusted advisor. And so, whether that's myself at Climate Field View or I'm building myself as the technical expert, I do that every day by showing up and having answers and working and problem solving and listening empathetically to the customer and their needs, reading between the lines. So, that's something that builds authority and trust with them,
Mhm.
that they know that I'm going to work through an issue with them and they're not alone. But how do it's not my job to sell Climate Field View. It's not my job to be the farmer, to be the seed dealer, or whoever is working with them on their operation every day. But it is my job to help those people in the industry connect with their customers to understand the technology and how they work together. And being able to break this very complex ecosystem of agriculture down and how technology fits into that, I think helps build the authority. If you can say, hey, here's what you're doing today, what are you most interested in? What questions do you have? And who are the people around you that are going to help you through that? And pulling them in so that, when we talk about the customer, the farmer, they have me, the tech person, but they also have the person they call down the road when they have an agronomy question involved. They have the person is who they lean on for, I have this pest pressure. I have something going on my farm. Can you help me figure this out? Let's put the picture together. And it's not my job to shine as the expert. It's my job to make sure those people connected to that farmer are shining as the advisor and can use their knowledge, their local skills, everything that a human has, right?
Mhm.
In conjunction with whatever's going on in that iPad, and it builds this really beautiful system in the perfect world, right? Like that's what that looks like. And so I train a lot of people on how to have those conversations, what questions to ask, what to be listening for. And if you notice, none of that is me writing code or like discovering some new deep technology. It's really about human to human connection. So they look at me as the tech expert, and I struggle to call my own IT people. So it's really not that. It's just understanding human emotion and how to build bridges for people.
It's being empathetic, right? And you said listening, and listening is so important. I think nowadays, and maybe it always has been, and I'm just saying that as like I'm getting older and grumpy, but people listen to respond instead of listen to understand, and you miss everything in between there, right? And it sounds like to me, a lot of your job is, I'm the glue. Let me bring people together.
It's no secret also that our industry is has a lot of pride, has a lot of it's a very romantic industry. I know it's male dominated and people are strong, but there is a lot of emotion tied up in agriculture. So if I'm truly listening when a customer comes with maybe what you'd consider an objection, oh, I don't have time, or I don't understand this, or, just not right now. Like I hear the frustrations, and what I'm hearing is not this product isn't beneficial to my operation. I'm hearing I'm overwhelmed. I don't know
Mhm.
where to start. This isn't my safe space. What I know is driving my equipment or working the land or doing something like that. This is new to me, and I can't even touch it with a 10-foot pole because it's just overwhelming. It's another thing on top of the millions of things that I have to try to figure out. And so you start to ask more questions and uncover more and just really truly listen. And instead of going and showing up and throwing up is a good phrase that I think some salespeople will do, right? We want to
For
tell
sure.
everybody about our cool product and how it can help, but we don't even know what they want help with first. So we have to start there before we tell them about all the cool things that they could be taking advantage of.
Yeah, there's no point, right? And vomiting, if you don't know what help they need.
Hmm.
And I love that you said overwhelmed. I think, especially for me, I'm from Orlando, Florida. It's I wouldn't say it's a big city, but it's certainly metropolitan now. And
Hmm.
coming into ag with zero idea, like schools in Orlando don't even touch on anything about it. All we know is what's in history books, right? And you're right, it's kind of romanticized to the point where this is what a lot of these people know. It's a lot of what the farmers have done and their families have done for forever,
Hmm.
right? And I have no idea what they go through every day. But I can imagine after working in ag for about a year here that I still don't have any idea. I just know it's a lot, and I would be overwhelmed with that.
Hmm.
So it's imperative that we listen when we're asking, how can we help? And what do you need help with? So I really love that you touched on that. And I also wish they put more of it in schools.
We could have a whole other episode on my thoughts on education and agriculture education. And yeah, absolutely.
It blows my mind. I learn so much every day. And I'm just like, why did I never know this? This is insane. Like I would have never known all of the professions, all of the different people who work in this wonderful industry. I can totally tell why it's super emotional
Hmm.
because you don't know unless you know.
Absolutely.
But you're right. That's a whole different episode. We could probably spend a few hours going down that. But few more fun questions, right? What's one thing about your job that almost no one agrees with you about?
It's a bit of a hot take. It's a little bit related to what we're just talking about, but
Mhm.
there's some common phrases in agriculture. And this is why I feel like my background makes me a little bit unique, right? I didn't come from ag, and there are many people in agriculture who didn't come from ag that find their way into it. And as you said, I learn something new every day, and that's what helps keep me here. But um, I chose ag. I didn't like just find a company and it happenstance. Like this was something I actively chose. And so I have both my what we'll call my city folk mind and my country folk mind, and I bring those two together. But I'm critical of a lot of phrases that are used and not in the way that others might think. So some common phrases we hear are farmers are feeding the world, which they are, and that they need to do more with less. Now, I want to extrapolate that a little bit because imagine me coming to you and saying, here's your job. You have this insurmountable responsibility to the entire population of the planet, And by the way, you have less resources than ever to accomplish it. What would you do? How would you feel if I told you that?
Yeah, not great.
It's a lot of pressure. And what are there? Roughly 2 million farmers and in just the US, and what, 33 million plus people in the United States. So you're looking at less than like 1% or around then of the population that's responsible for everyone. And agriculture is the industry. It is the industry that keeps us alive next to water.
Mhm.
So I say all that to allude to, the criticism of be careful because words matter. And we have a group of people who have really put the weight of the world on their shoulders. I've sat in combines, I've sat at the table, I've had these very strong men have tears in their eyes over like what's going on. And the mental health of farmers is something that we know is there. We know it's an issue, but I don't think we as an industry are taking the responsibility for what we've put on this population of people. So do farmers feed the world? Absolutely, without a doubt. Are they being asked to do more with less? Yes. But I want to pose the question of who do those statements really benefit? Are they benefiting the farmer, or are they benefiting maybe other entities, really? And so it is kind of a beat your chest statement, right? It brings a lot of pride because those people are more than willing to do this. But anytime we come in with any type of criticism, so I'm putting my city mind on,
Mhm.
hey, where's our food coming from? What are you using, on the products or on the farm? Like, what products are you using? What types of impacts do they have? In what other industry can we turn to our consumer and say, you don't get to know this, you're not involved, don't worry about it? It's a really dangerous mindset to be in because that not only is this impacting mental health, it's gridlocking our ability to make true progress, to make connections between different groups of people. It's creating a scarcity mindset. And it's also driving us towards what more is better. Is more do more with less, or should we be doing differently with what we have? Um, and this disconnection from the consumer it's difficult. And I ask my city folk, like, but when you think about even yourself, like, is it that you don't want to be involved in agriculture? You don't want anything to do with it. You want these people to deal with it. And like they grow all the food and you just go to the grocery store. Is that truly the mindset? Or is it that there was an intentional separation and now we are dealing with the consequences of that clash? And so, technology fits into this. So I'm going to bring it back to my job here. That's my Megan's personal opinion. That's my hat. And then how technology fits into this, right? We have shoved it onto farmers that if you use it, right, like it's going to make your life simpler. It's going to make it better. It's going to make it easier. You can do more with less. And it's just, I think we're finding that that's not the case. More so, we're putting power to make decisions and provide transparency and clarity around what's actually happening. And so I see technology kind of bridging this gap and between the consumer and the farm. But there are a lot of hands up about this, right? There's a lot of pride, there's a lot of emotion, a lot of how dare you tell me what to do. I'm making sure this world goes around. So, and all of that, my opinion is just to whoever you are on whatever side of this is to peel back a layer and just point those questions and that energy in the right direction. And it's not at each other. It's not at the farmers. It's not at the consumers. And there's a lot of common ground that I think if we can remove that we'll find there's a genuine desire to connect to the farm. Why do we think farm to table is so popular? People want to be connected, but they can't be. So I don't know. My hope for technology in the future is that it allows us to build trust and transparency and, to make sure we can continue to feed our people.
That's really deep. Like, I honestly, I've got a few tingles here, and I mean, we've had like 3 or 4 episodes just on everything you said there. I mean, we could really jump into that. I mean, and I agree with I think initially people now, you mentioned the onion. They see the outer layer and they want to attack whatever that is instead of digging like a layer or two deeper to see maybe what the actual problem is.
Mhm.
And we spoke about it earlier about education and agriculture.
Mhm.
That's certainly missing from a lot of places. I don't know if we spoke about this when we first started talking, but I was a fine dining chef for a long time. That's how I paid my way through college, actually. And so I got really close to food and where it
Mhm.
came from and how it's grown. And, you know, I want to make sure that if I'm cooking, an animal or a vegetable or something, an animal gave its life, somebody gave their energy, the plant gave its energy as well
Mhm.
to do it, to take care of it. And I spent a lot of time learning about the process, more so on the plant side, because there's just at the time there wasn't a lot of information on the animal side, easily accessible.
Mhm.
So I like to grow my own food, and I know how tough that is. So I understand the pride also in the industry, but we may get way off tangent going down this.
I
So I'm going
know.
to stop myself because I know I'll ramble. But wow.
Oh, I love that. I mean, to the same vein though, right? This is the devil's advocate. I remember when I was at Illinois State walking on campus, looking down and seeing a pamphlet against meat production, pigs in particular, and showing that these graphic images of these pigs and all these terrible things. And I looked down and I'm like, that's an umbilical cord. Like, that's just a newborn pig. The blood is from like amniotic fluid of being born. And if I hadn't worked on the farm and helped farrow those pigs myself, I'd have never known. And how would you? And you would look at that and say, well, this is terrible. And it's really just a natural way of life. And so it goes both ways. It really does.
Yeah, but again, that goes straight to education. Like so much of
Mhm.
like life, just life in general, not our life, but life in general, life as it is around the world is hidden or shielded from us to where if you're not part of that world, you'll never know. And so you'll see something like that and be like, oh my God, what are they doing to these animals? When in reality, hey, life, that's what life looks like. It's not pretty all the time, but
Mhm.
that's life.
Absolutely.
And people get up in arms about it. I'm glad my stepdaughters aren't here right now. They'll have a field day on it. But trying to get off this topic because I think we'll spend another 30 minutes here if we do. What would you say is your favorite productivity hack, Megan?
So my last role before I moved to Minnesota was in an office, and traditionally, outside of my farm and school work, like that's the work that I had done. So I paint that picture because there's a lot of built-in structure to going into an office, to having people around you. And I moved to Minnesota in July of 2020, which, as we know, many things happened in 2020, but I was moving either way. So, what I'm about to discuss was going to happen to me regardless of an entire pandemic. So, I moved to my home office in my new city on my own into a bigger girl job. And all of a sudden, all of the structures that I had known for my entire life were completely gone. And so I found myself really struggling with organizing my way of working, what my goals were, how to accomplish small things, big things. It just became really, really overwhelming. And I put a lot of pressure on myself. As we said, I'm very competitive. That's the American in me, that's the sports in me. It's just something that I grapple with because I think it's competition can be healthy, it can also be detrimental. And so my first productivity hack is to chill out. You got to chill out because all that stress and worry is going to really if you're anybody like me, and in 2020 I also did get diagnosed with ADHD, so like learning a whole new version of myself and grieving the issues that I had in my past, like I really had to tear down everything I knew about how I got work done and what that looks like and start from scratch. And in order to get started and not to overwhelm myself with pressure, I had to chill out. I'm still learning that. So first things first, chill out, make your list, do what you got to do. But then you have to start to think about, okay, who am I and how do I operate in my best self, whatever that looks like? And not just, am I a human and am I accomplishing a task? If you're someone like me, doing something simple like, let's say, taking out the trash, for example, is not just taking out the trash. It's going downstairs, getting your shoes, making sure you have a bag to refill the trash can. Then you have to go outside. Is it cold? You need a jacket. Like there's lots of steps involved. And so if you're someone who has lots of steps involved and anything can derail what you want to accomplish, you need to figure out a system that's going to make it almost impossible for you to fail. So that
Hmm.
when you inevitably have a human moment, you've got these systems built around you that can get you right on track. So, going back to my trash example, just to keep it simple, are the trash bags right next to the trash can? Do you keep your shoes right by the door? Is there a coat hanging there in case you have to go outside? Like, is there a certain day of the week you have the most energy and the trash gets the most full, and so that's the day you decide to do the task. So I really encourage everybody for anything in life, look at your systems and build support around you, whatever that looks like. And sometimes it's so small and obvious, it's almost makes you mad when you figure it out and you're like, this was the key to all of my success in the world. Okay, what else am I missing? And in that, I'm also someone who, as I mentioned, needs structure, but I also need flexibility because you put me in a box and now I'm angry and I don't want to do it just because I have to, which is like so annoying of me. And I wish I didn't work like that. But,
I put myself in the box and I'm angry.
um,
Ah,
it's like, no, now I have to do the things that I said I was going to do. But so that looks like for me, going back to actual like job and work, if I have a list of things to get done, they have to go in buckets. What do I absolutely have to get done? And when does that need to get done? I tell my manager to lie. I say, lie to me and make up a deadline. I don't care. Make it more important than it is, even if it doesn't matter to you. Because if you tell me it doesn't matter, then my brain says it doesn't matter and we're going to procrastinate it and it's not going to get done. So, like, what do I absolutely need to get done? What do I want to get done? And what would I like to get done? And then I look at how much time I have and plug and play depending on how much energy I have. And hopefully, my systems that I've built will allow me to get to that. And the last piece, the ultimate thing that I have figured out, and I recommend downloading an app if you are also of this mindset, is I have time blindness. I can't feel how long a minute is to an hour unless I'm looking at a calendar. I could look at a calendar for 45 minutes and know that this meeting was at 10, walk away and think it was at 9. Like literally walk away and I'm like, yeah, that meeting at 9 now. And I'm like, it's ridiculous. I have a really hard time getting out the door in the morning because my morning routine, I convinced myself would take me 45 minutes. Daryl, it takes me 2 hours. It takes me realistically 2 hours from the time I wake up to the time I get ready to do whatever I'm doing. And I had to time myself every day. The time I spend, doing my bathroom stuff, getting my clothes out, eating my breakfast, like all of that. And until I put actual numbers and data behind it, data is powerful. I didn't know. So now I just know that I can't fool myself into 45 minutes. I need 2 hours. Like,
that you said a few things there that I probably suffer from as well. Not the time blindness, although that is my wife 100%.
mhm,
She will, I have to lie to her about times to make sure we're on time because I'm like anally on time. Like if I'm not 15 minutes early, like I'm stressing. I got to be there. And she will be like, okay, so this is what I'm going to do today. And then the girls have to go here and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, where are you finding all this time? Because we
mhm,
live in Miami. It takes an hour to go a mile sometimes in traffic. Like it's bad. So I can see time blindness, and I know what you fight with that because I see my wife fight with it every day. But I'm a big systems guy myself, and I also suffer from the put me in a box and I go nuts.
mhm.
And I'm the guy who puts myself there. So I have to do for me what works is I have to force myself into like I live my life by my calendar. And so I break it out like, okay,
Mhm.
during 10 to 11, that's my power hour where I'm only doing this. And like I block everything else out. Otherwise, I get stretched so far doing little menial tasks that I never go anywhere.
Mhm.
Kind of like how my stepfather's, or not my stepfather, how my father in law swims. Like he's paddling everywhere, but he doesn't move. So I get that.
Yeah, and that exactly plays into kind of like removing some of that stress and anxiety and pressure on yourself because realistically, you've got so much energy in a day. And if you allow it to be pulled in every direction, you're going to end up not getting as much as accomplished, being spread thin. But also, when you go into that hyper focus mode, you have to give yourself permission that this is the thing I'm going to get done. And if nothing else gets done, that's okay. Because this is the thing that needs to get done. Those other things feel important, but are they? Is that email really important right now?
Hmm.
Is that text message? Is that shiny thing that you're chasing that you actually want to do because you don't want to do the thing you want to do more important? You have to be okay with just getting this thing done and focusing on it, which is it's hard. And you won't get it right every time. And you have to be okay with that too. But be proud of yourself when you do get it done and reward yourself for it because it's hard. It is. So give yourself a break and give yourself a little treat.
Coffee is going to be mine. We'll be right there.
Mhm.
But yeah, you really have to. You have to be okay not getting everything done. And it took me a long time to learn like prioritizing things, and then I had to learn. Oh, I can't prioritize everything because then nothing's a priority.
Mhm.
So here at Wisenetix, we're actually big fans of the EOS. It's called like the Entrepreneurial Operating System, and it's really like an L10 leadership kind of like framework. But part of that is, hey, these are your priorities, but you can have a list of 20, but you can only work on three.
Yep.
And so that's kind of what I do. I'll make a list and then I'll work on the three, and hopefully I get all three done. But otherwise, you're right. You end up spending energy going everywhere. And I feel like that's how you burn out, is when
Mhm.
you spend your energy on everything, but nothing gets done.
Mhm. Absolutely.
I know we're running over quite the time here, but I have two more questions for you. If you could go back and give 18-year-old Megan one piece of advice, what would it be?
I would tell her she was right. And I would tell her to keep trusting her gut and to live authentically as yourself as much as you can. I'm not saying share, I wouldn't tell her to share everything with everyone, but like, when I stepped into that room and I made that choice to go down this path in life, I had many people trying to influence me to be whatever version they saw would fit. And I live and die by a piece of advice that I've come to, and that is I take advice from people's lives I want and I put down the rest. What applies, what feels right, what feels good, what aligns, you follow that. And you have to trust that no matter what happens, it's the right choice. When you have multiple great opportunities, whatever you choose is going to be correct. And so, you know, are there things that I got wrong in life? Sure. I there are mistakes that are made, but in every single one of those and every single decision, it's led me here and I'm happy with who I am and I am authentic to myself. And should I have chosen anything else, that probably wouldn't be the life that I'm living. So I would just tell her, you're right. Don't listen to them unless they're living the life that you want and, chase that. Don't worry about the rest of it. That's people's projections of how they feel about themselves that they're trying to put onto you. And you just don't have time for that. Life's too short. Be weird, go wild, try new things, go work in a pig barn. I don't know, whatever you want.
I love that quote, and I've seen a lot of different versions of it. But you're 18-year-old. You should listen to that.
Hmm.
18-year-old, you should listen to that. Take advice from people who are in places where you want to be,
Hmm.
because they're the ones who got there. And if you could write a book tomorrow, what would you write it about?
Well, probably on what we were talking about earlier, and this is kind of my next step in my journey, my career. I'd actually like to go back to school and work on the psychology of technology adoption and focus on social and political factors and how they influence that adoption, what resources are out there, advantages and disadvantages of technology adoption in rural America, and really how our patriarchal system has influenced where we're at today and how women are stepping up on the farm. Like, I go to a lot of places and you know who has the passwords, you know who's using the computer, you know who's running the books.
Not me.
It's the women. They are out there making sure the day in and day out back systems are operating. The stuff that brings that money and makes it flow to and from. Yes, the seed goes in the ground and the crop comes out, but how do you track? How do you get paid? Like, how do you make sure you're recording your information? A lot of times it's a woman. So I would wrap all of that into a book, and I probably will one day.
As you should. I would love to read that book. And you know what? I think it's always been that way. There's just more visibility now,
Mhm.
and it should be, and women should get more credit for what they do. But so my dad's a doctor, my mom was a nurse, and my mom, they after they got married, they ended up working at my dad's private practice together. But I know my mom did every single thing in the back end,
Mhm.
from billing to payroll to everything. And I'm sure I would put money on it that it's that way at 95%, if not more, like small businesses.
Yep, I would put money on that too. If I had money, I'd put it on that.
That's right. I got 5 right now. Let's start a pool. So, so we'll end it right there, Megan. But where can everybody who's listened today find you online?
Yeah, if you're looking to connect more, find me on LinkedIn, send me a message. I'm happy to chat, happy to point you in the right direction if you have questions about working in precision ag and technology or anything. I'm always happy to chat with people. So I recommend they reach out to me there.
Awesome. Well, and make sure that you post your book when you write it there so I can order it.
Will do. Will do. Thank you, Daryl.
No problem, Megan. Thank you again so much for coming on to the show.
Yeah, happy to be here. Have a great day.
Have a great one, guys, and thanks for listening to the Wisenetix Podcast.